Hey, what's up? I'm Rafael de Furia, aka Rafi Diazme, back at it again on another beautiful evening, back in beardless, well, mostly beardless, and let's just get right into it. And firstly, of course, thank you to those of you who've been helping to support the efforts of this channel on rafaeldefuria.com/support. And also, just a quick question to those of you who saw my last video that I uploaded, Bachelor Gourmet. Let me know if you're interested in seeing more videos like that. I've been toying with the idea of making that at least a semi-regular thing. But today I wanted to go back to a more serious topic, which we have discussed a little bit here on this channel before, about Jure Sanguinis, the Italian identity, the Italian-American identity, and how everything kind of fits together. And today's subject is something that people seem to have very strong feelings about, but not just within the Jure Sanguinis community, but also the community of people of Italian descent as a greater whole. And in my short experience as part of this online community, I have seen quite a bit of negativity, not in the Jure Sanguinis community, in the greater community. And I felt as though it was time to address this subject in a video. But before we get too much deeper into the video, if you would like to see more content like this, be sure you're subscribed with that notification bell turned on. And if you could also give this video a like, I'd really appreciate that, as it does help the channel grow. The following is a mild example of some of the interactions that I've had. Normally, I would prefer to stay away from subjects which you might call hate, but I really do feel as though it's important to have this discussion. I'm gonna put the interaction on the screen, but just to kind of quickly go over it, I got into a small conversation with an older gentleman of Italian descent who's living in the United States, and he left a comment in regards to moving to Italy and becoming an Italian citizen. And he asked me what passport I had before gaining the Italian passport, seemingly as though I had given up whatever passport this was before. And this seems to be a common misconception, that you have to give up your American passport, but I still have my American citizenship. This is not going anywhere anytime soon. And as it's a form of birthright citizenship, or actually I should say blood right citizenship, there's no naturalization process. And at this point in time, it would seem as though both the US and Italy both allow for not only dual nationality, but multinationality. And in my response to his question, I mentioned that I still have my American passport. I didn't give up American citizenship, and I'm very proud to be American and very grateful for the opportunities that country gave me, and very grateful to have grown up there. I may not live in the US, but I still have a soft spot in my heart for it, without a doubt. And even though I am grateful to that country, for me it felt like it was time to come home. And he seemed to very clearly take issue with that, and let me just read exactly what he said. "I know you said you were proud to be American, but I feel as though you are kicking American-born Italians in the..." What? My first reaction was just, I'm kicking who in the what? How? Like, it really doesn't make sense to me. I really don't get it. I mean, I was very shocked by the phrasing of that, although this is not the first time I've heard that, or at the very least a similar sentiment phrased a little bit differently. And it's not a position which I fully understand, but I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion, of course. But to those of you who are Italian or of Italian descent and are very adamantly against this, why? I know you're against it, but what I'm wanting to hear is the root. What I want to know is the why. And for those of you who are supportive of this, who think that it's a great thing to be able to go and have the opportunity to connect with your motherland, to be a contributing member of Italian society, or whatever it may be, to connect to the land, why? What is the why? I know you have this love, but what is the why? But Italian citizenship and moving to Italy was just the right choice for me. I'm not saying it's for everybody. I'm not trying to preach or proselytize. I'm not out here saying, come... Well, I'm not trying to preach or proselytize here. Come to the motherland, land of the dolce vita, and la bella vita awaits you. The pizza, the pasta, and the amore are here, awaiting in the land of your forefathers. I don't do that. That's not me. But I really do think it's important that people have all of the information and not to sugarcoat things. And I know people are looking for this information, and that's why I'm making it, because I know what I went through with some of the difficulties with trying to make this all happen, and some of the confusions about what to do and where to do it and how to do it. I'm just a guy that wants to see other people succeed and try to help in any way that I can. But going back to this interaction, this is not the first time I've heard something like this. I've heard everything from, oh, how could you do this? Your ancestors would be ashamed. They would be rolling over in their graves. How dare you go back to that place and throw everything that they worked for back in their faces. I've also received a lot of really nasty private messages with things even worse that I would never want to repeat. From what I've seen, there seems to be two camps. The first would be made up of people who are interested in pursuing this, and other people who are not necessarily interested in pursuing this, but not judgmental and completely open-minded to the people who are interested in it. And then there's the other camp of people who think this is an insult to your ancestors and a horrible, disgusting thing to do, and so on and so on. I really don't see how anybody could call this a betrayal of any kind. In fact, I would argue the opposite, where it's showing respect to them. It's a testament to show that they made the right decisions for themselves and made a better life for not only themselves, but for their descendants. In my opinion, it only goes to show their achievements. Many of our ancestors left a difficult situation looking for a better life, and many, if not all, found that. In my opinion, pursuing Jure Sanguinis and moving back to Italy is just another way of showing your Italian pride, just a different way of expressing it. And another question that I've got, but if my ancestors were able to leave where they were from because they thought in this other place that they could make a better life for themselves, why can't I do the same? Why shouldn't I have that same option to make that choice in my own life? Why is it an insult to come back here? And if the response would be, well, you're just going back to a place where your ancestors left because it was so difficult, what you're talking about is a long gone memory. A lot has changed since the turn of the 20th century. And in 2018, am I going to say this place is perfect? No. But it has everything that I'm looking for. Why is it that they could pursue something that they wanted from life, but it's an insult if I do the same thing? I'm very happy with my life here, and I'm very grateful that I've had this opportunity to start making my life here and experience this place for what it is today, and making my own memories here, and seeing it for what it is, having my own Italian experience. Living here in the country today rather than experiencing it through the stories of yesteryear. I'm not, for lack of a better term, dissing those old beautiful memories, but I want to see this all with my own eyes. And even though a lot of what maybe used to exist doesn't exist anymore, you still have remnants of it around the country. My decision was that I wanted to come and live and work and really know what it means to be here in Italy, to become a contributing, tax-paying member of Italian society. And more importantly, to come and live at a slower pace and what I would call a higher quality of life, at least for the type of life that I want to live. And don't get me wrong, I'm not hating on America. I'm so grateful to it, because some of those opportunities that the US gave me have allowed me to come here. They've allowed me to come back home. And I don't see why my pride in my Americanness, or that my ancestors came to settle there. If I have the freedom to be where I want, why do I have to be there? To live somebody else's dream? My family realized the American dream, but during that dream, I was having my own dreams of Italy. And I know there's plenty of other people who feel that same way, even people in my own family who've also come to live in Italy. I'm not trying to convince anybody to do anything or to make any decisions. I'm just speaking about what was right for me in my life. And like I've said in other videos, I don't think life abroad is necessarily meant for everybody. And one of the reasons why I've been focusing and spending so much time on this topic of Italian citizenship and Italian American identity, the dual citizenship thing, is because I think it's very important to keep discussing the topics around this conversation. But don't get me wrong, there is a time and place for the great sauce versus gravy debate. But I think there's also a time and place to dig into some of these deeper issues. Also, by the way, just to make things perfectly clear, it's gravy. Although, I do actually call it sauce. And one of the reasons why I think there are so many people that are so against people making this claim for Italian citizenship or moving back to Italy is because of a lack of understanding. But let's go over a few of what seems to be the most common misconceptions. There would seem to be a large amount of people who are under the impression that Americans and some people of other nationalities can only have one passport at a time, one nationality at a time. Only a singular citizenship citizenship status. And in regards to just the US and Italy, this is simply not true. Although this may have been true at one point in time, this is not the world we currently live in. But the next point, you're not taking on a new citizenship in this whole Jure Sanguinis process. This next misconception seems to be especially insulting to some people. From what I've seen, it seems as though these people are under the impression that when you gain your Italian citizenship, you're swearing allegiance to a foreign nation, making an oath to another nation, and you shouldn't be allowed to keep your American passport if you're going to do this. When it comes to Jure Sanguinis, this just isn't the case again. There are other forms of reacquisition where you do have to make an oath, but when it comes to Jure Sanguinis, you are born an Italian citizen, and the way that you would gain Italian citizenship would happen in the same way that you would gain American citizenship if your parents were American. It's just the only difference is that Italy has a lot more leniency in the amount of generations you can go back to make this claim happen. And in regards to swearing an oath or making a pledge, that's not even a part of this process. I know there are people who would gladly volunteer to do it, but it's not even an option to do it. And for the people who are making a petition to claim Italian citizenship under Jure Sanguinis actually have the same right to Italian citizenship as people who are of Italian descent in Italy. You could pretty much even say that this process comes down to a delayed birth registration. And it's not going through a naturalization process to become an Italian citizen. Under Italian law, these people are already Italian citizens. They just haven't yet made the Italian government aware of their existence. And something I find interesting is that many of the people who criticize this process would probably be eligible for citizenship in just the same way that the rest of us are. And of course, I'm not going to say everybody because you can have a broken chain of citizenship, but a lot of people who are of Italian American descent or of Italian descent abroad are eligible to come here as Italian citizens. Because we're not really talking about birthright citizenship here. We're talking about blood right citizenship. And something interesting to me is that it seems as though a lot of these people who are so critical of the Jure Sanguinis community, they also seem to be the people who find the importance of making a distinction that they are 100% full-blooded Italian, the real deal, the real Italian, living the real Italian life. And like I've mentioned in a previous video about homegrown Italians, people who are born and raised here in Italy, and what they think of us, people who are of Italian descent, born and raised abroad, as far as they're concerned, it seems as though we're just a bunch of foreigners, not 100% Italian or 100% Sicilian. They seem to see 100% foreigner. I'm generalizing here. And like I've said before, this is not all Italians, but there are a lot of people who do think this way. And I'm not trying to start anything here, and I'm not trying to be mean in any way. This is just the reality of what some people do think here in Italy. And I'm not saying anybody is more or less Italian based on their location or their passport. Again, I'm not saying that this is for everybody, or even that I'm judging anybody based on what their position is when it comes to this subject. I really am very curious to hear what other people have to say about this subject, and I really hope that we can continue this constructive conversation that we've been having over these videos, because what I've seen so far has really been amazing. And the stories that people have shared about their own family histories and their life, it's touching. It really is. Getting to see the similarities between my own family story and another person's story, or even my own personal story and what somebody else is going through. I mean, it really is such an amazing thing to see. But one thing that I am constantly always so impressed by the Jure Sanguinis community is how supportive and caring they are for one another. This small, little, steadily growing community of people, always there for each other, for the good and the bad, willing to hear each other out when they're getting to those frustrating moments, and there to celebrate with them when things are great. This is one of the sweetest communities that I've seen online. No, not one of the sweetest. The sweetest community that I've ever seen. And there have been these talks in the community about having to have a big group meetup in Italy one of these days, and I'm ready to see that happen. I mean, just if anybody is interested in that sort of thing. I'm personally of the opinion that maybe some planning should start to happen sooner than later. But maybe that's just me. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me to come back on another beautiful evening to be a part of this conversation. And if you have other Italian American friends that you think might be interested in this, please feel free to share this with them over social media. And if you would like to see more content like this, be sure that you're subscribed with that notification bell turned on. And if you could also give the video a like, I'd really appreciate that. And a huge thank you to those of you who've been helping to make videos like this possible by supporting this channel through rafaeldifuria.com/support. And as always, this is an open conversation, so if you have anything to say or add to the conversation, feel free to leave it down below here on the YouTube comment section. And as always, I'm Rafael Di Furia, aka Rafi D is me. Thank you all so much again for joining me. I'll see y'all next Friday night, and have a great one. Later.